Hi, my name's Andrew Christensen. I'm a law clerk here at Brown Family Law, and I'm just going to take a second to run through a financial declaration with you guys and show you how to do one. So first of all, we're going to start scrolling through. The first thing you're going to see is that there's a big block. It's going to have like the court, the case number, judge, commissioner, all that sort of stuff. It's information on your case. You don't need to input anything there. We can take care of that here. You can put your names in there as you see here. Otherwise, you're good to move on to the next step, which is to include your social security number for us. Obviously, we don't know your social security number, so we need you to provide that for us. Which actually leads me to the first thing I want to talk about, which is the importance of the financial declaration, why it matters, and why we have you do it and do a lot of it. So the first thing is that a lot of cases are really won or lost based on the quality of your financial declaration. Child support, alimony, they're basically calculated out of this document. And the reason that is because in the state of Utah, a lot of this stuff is just calculations. So what goes on this document is what's going to be pumped out the other side of the child support calculator at utah.gov. And so what we're trying to do here is create an accurate representation for basically what's going to be the first official document you file with the court about what kind of assets you're bringing into this divorce and what you're trying to divide, because the courts are always concerned with creating what they call an equitable division of the assets. And so we here are just trying to fill out this court-ordered document in order to make sure that we're able to do it accurately and then begin from there protecting the assets that you want protected. And so with that, another thing about the courts is that they don't just take your word for anything. We believe you here as your attorneys, but when you put something down on this financial declaration, you need a document to back it up. So some of those documents look like 2 years of your most recent taxes. We need the last 3 months of bank and credit card statements for any bank. And we also need the last year of pay stubs from your work. This isn't necessarily something we want to do, trust me. It's a hassle for us as well, but it's something that the court requires. And so if you can provide that for us, it's going to make both our lives a lot easier. And we have you guys fill out a lot of this simply because it's just time consuming. It's not difficult. Anybody could really do this, but it is time consuming. And so in order to save you money, we offer you the opportunity to fill out as much of this as you possibly can, so that when it makes its way to us, it ends, and when we just cross-check everything, make sure that everything's good, it ends up costing you much, much less. And so that's why we're going to continue to push you to provide these documents and make sure you fill it out, because you're going to be able to do it a lot more effectively than we can. You know your own life, your own expenses, your own income better than we do, and you're going to be able to input that much quicker. It's going to take us a really long time, which ends up resulting in a really large bill for you. So please take this very seriously. The next thing I wanted to talk about, we're going to move on, is your employment status. So here you can see there's the boxes. You check that you're employed or you're unemployed. If you're unemployed, you have to put an explanation as to why below, and you'll see that in a second. If you're an hourly employee or self-employed, you can check that. Here in our example, this person, hypothetical person, John Doe, is both an hourly employee and self-employed. Here, you can see in red, what you do with that information is begin by putting in the name of your employer and like who they're doing business as well as the address and telephone number. Pretty self-explanatory. Underneath that, you then start putting down your gross monthly income. You can see here that it's divided up by many different things. Social Security, education benefits, veteran benefits, all of that. If any of those things apply to you, please provide documentation verifying that this is the correct amount, and also fill it out here. But generally speaking, these top 3 are the most common: work, business income, and rental income. So fill those out. You can see how we just put an amount here for each one of those. And then rental income, we put unknown because John Doe has an issue here in filling out his financial declaration, as almost everyone does at some point. There's some sort of issue in that he doesn't actually know what the rental income is because Mary won't tell him how much money they're making from their rental income, and she's withholding those documents from him. Here you can see the total. And John also doesn't work full-time, and he doesn't work full-time because him and Mary had decided they were going to start a family and that her income supported them completely. So they agreed together that they wouldn't work. He put that description in right here after checking the box, and that's important. If you're not working full-time, we ask you to do the same thing. Next, you move on to your monthly tax deductions. Pretty self-explanatory. You can basically just look at your income through your pay stubs often, or if not that, you can look through your profit loss statements provided by your accountant if you own a business, or you even go to your tax returns and just fill this out, your federal, state, social, Medicare, and from that, you then subtract that from the amount you earn, and you come to your net income. After that, we move to the expenses category. Now, the expenses category is the most important category in this entire thing. The reason why is I can't predict, I don't know unless I just start digging deeply through your documents and your credit card statements and stuff, what you spend and how much you spend on what. I'm also going to venture to guess you don't know exactly what you spend on everything, and that's okay. When you don't know exactly what you spend on something, we put an asterisk in front of it. This tells the court that it's an estimated amount. So you can see here on rent or mortgage, marital expense, John doesn't know. Why? Because it was being withheld from him, as we talked about before. But he knows the current that he's now paying to rent for himself now that they've been separated, and it's roughly $1,500 a month, but he's living with his parents and they're charging him rent, and so that varies here and there, and there's no documentation to back it up, so he put an asterisk there. But on real property insurance, he had the statements for that during their marriage. He knows exactly how much, so he put that down. Food and household supplies. He doesn't know exactly how much he spent every month. No one probably does. This is a place where you're going to almost always put an asterisk. He put an asterisk on next to the amount. Same with clothing, automobile insurance, he knew the exact amount. Gasoline and automobile maintenance, also an asterisk. Most people aren't going to know the answers to this, and you won't either, and that's okay. Be confident in putting that asterisk down, and we will take care of it. Same with utilities now, because he's renting from his parents. And you can continue to go on, and what we need you to do here is, within all reason, please try to fill this out as completely as you can. There are going to be sections that need to be left blank, just as there is for John here. But you can probably fill out at least 50% of these expenses. Most people have a lot of expenses, and they apply to, and most of these categories apply to most people. So please try your best to fill them out, and when you do, it's going to save you money in the long run, both by saving you from our billable hour rate, as well as saving you from making a mistake, looking like somebody who's trying to pull one over on the court, and then having to pay for it in terms of alimony or child support in the future. Then we move on to business interests. Here you put the business name, their address, phone, the nature of the business, the percent owned, the current value. Here, if you are a business owner, we really ask that you provide at least 3 months to hopefully to a year of profit loss statements on whatever it is you own, so that we can verify with the court what you're making, what you're earning, as well as the validity of the business that you own, the enterprise that's going on here. So please provide that as well. Then we move on here to your financial assets. Now here you're gonna see you first put in the 4 digits of the account number, the name of the institution, the names of the people who own it, as well as the current balance. I want to remind you that we also need you to provide a year worth of statements for each of these, and you need to include every account you own. You can see here that there's at least 2 credit union accounts here for John. Then you can see that he also has stocks and bonds, a retirement account. For all of those, we need you to fill this out and also provide those statements for us. He also put in an estimate of how much cash he thinks he owns. We need you to do that as well. And if you have anything else that, like a profit sharing plan or a life insurance plan, John doesn't seem to have here, we also need you to include that in this document, as well as in the documents you provide for us to verify that you really do have them. Next, we move on to real property. Here, you can duplicate these little squares as many times as you need to, just through copy and paste. All right, following your financial assets, you put in your real property assets. Here we need a mortgage or rental statement for each thing that you put in here. If you're collecting rent on a rental you own, we need the rental statement and the mortgage. If it's just your home that you live in, obviously just the mortgage. You can see here what you need to provide: date acquired, the cost, the current value, and that's all in the top one. Here on the rental address, again, John didn't have the access to this information, so he wasn't able to fill it out. Now, whenever you're not able to fill something out, that's okay, but we definitely want it to be a good reason for the court. So just that it would be difficult for you to obtain is not a good enough reason. It must be something that you really can't obtain. Next, we move on to valuable personal property. This looks like things like cars, firearms, motorcycles, recreational vehicles, boats, just high expense purchases that you want the court to be involved in equitably dividing. Here you can see that John put in for both him and his wife, or his soon-to-be ex-wife, the property that they owned, which was a motorcycle and 2 cars. He put in their current value, the amount owed, and the monthly payments if applicable. And on those, we also need, if you still have a loan on it, we need a loan statement from your credit union on how much is left. Lastly, we move on to debts. This is sort of the miscellaneous debts. The thing that I see most commonly put in here are student loans, or if somebody refinanced or reconsolidated debt or something like that, then it goes here. And so what you'll do is just like above, you put in the name of the debt and who it's owed to, the purpose of the debt, and the amount owed and the payments you make on it. We also need a statement for this. Just like everything has to be verified with the court, so please include documentation backing everything you say up. And then lastly, we have your estimated amounts right here. You don't really need to fill this out. I'll take care of that, but you can see here he put in paragraph 7 that he had estimated various household expenses, as everyone will in their financial declaration. And then they talk about how they did it. And lastly, you just come down here and you sign it, you put down the date, and you're ready to go, and we'll take care of the rest for you. So thanks for taking the time to watch this video and fill out your financial declaration, and we hope to continue to work with you soon.